Okay, this is day 6, and my name is Mitch, and we are talking today in our van update about the electrical system. I'm trying in my poor, limited brain to understand the electrical system of a van, and I'm going to share with you, and we're going to watch together a little video from Thrivans. I'm sorry, it's Thrivans. I always call them Thrivans. It's Thrivans, T-H-R-I, like thriving. We're thriving with the van. It's Thrivans. And we're going to jump into a Thrivans video, and he's going to explain to us a real brief description of their electrical system when they do a van build out. So let's see what he has to say.
Let's go take a look at our drop-in electrical system now. Now you can see here we're using all Victron components.
This is the mechanical box, and you'll see where he's got all of his electrical units screwed in there to a back panel. And he does this in his workshop before he adds the entire unit to the van. It's easier to work on that way. So he attaches all of his components to the back wall, screws it all in, keeps it all real nice and neat. So I like this extrude aluminum structure. It's much lighter than wood, and it's real easy to work with. It's a little bit more expensive, but hey, there you go.
Which we love. We got lots of videos on that on the channel if you want to see why we do that. Basically, I just want to go through the kind of the setup and the layout of this system. So in this van, we've got two 300 amp hour batteries by Epic. We also offer this system with two 280 amp hour SOK batteries. And so that gives you a total of 560 amp hours. So you can either go with 560 or 600.
Okay, depending on the batteries, you're talking about amps here. So either 580 amps or 600 amps of power with two lithium batteries that they use, those products. Of course, there's lots of different kinds of lithium batteries and lots of products to choose from. But having less than 300 amp hours is probably not too good. I like the idea of having 300 amp hours.
Same price either way. And then those two batteries are wired in series to create a 24 volt system. Now you can go with a 12 volt system. We'll do that for you if that's what you want. So I've done a video comparing 24 volt versus 12 volt. So I'm not going to go into all the details, but basically there's a few benefits of using 24 volt. You can use much smaller wires.
It might be helpful at this point to real quickly look at some notes that I have to get us a refresher course. I'm still trying to learn this stuff, but here you'll notice the math we're talking about here. Basically, we're talking about three things. We're talking about volts, we're talking about amps, and we're talking about watts. And in terms of definition, to kind of get it straight in my head, think about water in a hose. Volts is the push of the water through the hose. It's how volts are how hard the water is being pushed through the hose. Amps is how much flows in terms of water. Amps are how much water is moving through the hose. So you've got volts in terms of how much is being pushed. Amps regulates the amount of water in the hose, and then the watts is the workhorse, is the energy getting the job done. Volts, let's see. Watts are what happens when you push and the flow work together. Watts tell us how powerful something is. Like how bright a light is and how fast a fan spins. So a watt says how much work is being done. So think in terms of volts as the push of the water, amps is how much water is in the hose, and the watts is those things working together to create power. And you look at some basic math up here, volts times amps equals watts. Volts times amps equals watts. And a watt hour, and watt hours, if you had 600 watt hours times 2 hours, you're going to have 1200 watt hours is what's required to run a 600 watt system for 2 hours. So the math is volts times amps equals watts. And of course you can do it the other way. You can take the amount of watts and divide it by the volts to get the amps. So let's say you've got 1200 watts, divide that by a 12 volt battery, gives you 100 amp hours. And so when he's talking about amps and volts, this is kind of important to kind of keep in mind, and I'm still trying to learn myself in terms of keeping those terms straight.
Because with 24 volt, you're increasing the voltage, which decreases the amperage.
So the basic principle is the higher the volts, the lower the amps that are needed to get the same amount of energy. So there's a relationship going on here between volts and amps. The more volts, the less amps. The less volts, the more amps. And more amps requires a much larger cable. So that's why he's talking about a 24 volt system allows you to use cables that are much smaller.
What that means is on a 12 volt system, if you're doing a 3000 watt inverter, you're going to have to use 4-aught wires. This is a 4-aught wire. You can see it is pretty big lugs, hard to work with. You got a bigger equipment to be able to make the crimps and everything, more expensive for the crimpers for these. Whereas with the 24 volt, you can use 1-aught wires. So these are 1-aught wires for the battery cables. You can see there's quite a difference in size in those, difference in size in the lugs and everything, and a lot more flexible and just easier to route the wires and work with those. So that's probably my number one favorite thing about working with 24 volt. Also, if you're doing an air conditioner and you're doing a 24 volt air conditioner, then the wires are smaller that you've got to run from the air conditioner down to the system. So I'll just kind of go through an overview of the system. We've got 2 Orion chargers.
Okay, 2 Orion chargers. This is from the alternator to help recharge the batteries.
So that we can get a total of 60 amps of charging out of our vehicle alternator. Because when you got a big battery bank, like 600 amp hours or more, one of these chargers is just not going to give you enough. 30 amps for 600 amp hours. If your batteries were at 0, would mean you would have to drive for 20 hours to fully charge those batteries.
Okay, so he's talking about a 30 amp charger to replenish the power of a 600 amp battery system would require 20 hours of driving for that alternator to generate that much energy to reload the battery, to reboot the battery, to get the battery back up to full charge. And so he puts 2 of them in there to give you 60 amps of charging ability from the alternator. And with 60 amps coming from the alternator, it takes less time. It takes only 10 hours of driving. And of course, that's assuming the batteries are at 0, which is not going to happen that often. Most of the time, the batteries will be down around 40 or 50% full. So hopefully, when you're on the road, you can recharge those batteries while you're driving in about 3 hours of driving time, which is not that bad.
But if you got 2 of them, it's 10 hours, but most of the time you're not going to be fully depleted. You may be 50% or something. So in 5 hours, or what we find is in 3 to 5 hours of driving, typically we can totally recharge our batteries if we've, if we're down like 50, 60, 70%. So that's the way we do that. So 2 of those is really nice. So right here is your solar charge controller, and that'll be sized based on the size of your solar panel array. We got the wires coming from the roof down into a breaker and then feeding this.
Now, the way I don't know that much about solar power yet. I'm still studying solar power, but from what I understand, you're not going to be able to rely solely on solar power. It just doesn't furnish enough energy, especially when you're relying on sunlight. I mean, what do you do if it rains for 3 or 4 days straight and you don't have any sunlight? So, from what I understand, the solar power is best for the low power appliances, low power devices like your cell phone or your laptop computer. Those kinds of things are good for the solar power to generate, because they're going to be able to work with a much lower voltage than what's necessary for like a refrigerator or an air conditioner. So think in terms of solar power, working with the devices that require less energy.
And then we've got, this is a 24 to 12 volt converter. So most of the things that you're going to be running in your van on DC, things like your lights and your water pump and things like that, are probably going to be 12 volts. So you're going to need to convert that 24 volt down to 12 volt for those type of things. If you have 24 volt devices, you can run them directly. But if you've got 12, you just need to convert it down. So that's what that does. And then we've got our links distributor, which basically just is a really clean way to organize everything. There's fuses in here for each of the different systems. We've got one for the inverter charger. We've got one for the DC to DC charging for the alternator. We've got another fuse for our solar smart charge controller. And then we've got another fuse in here for our DC fuse panel. So everything's really nicely organized. We've got the shutoff switch, we've got the smart shunt, and then we've got the multi-plus 3,000 watt inverter, and this is a 24 volt inverter. So it's just a really nice system.
I think now the inverter will take some study because it uses a little bit of energy as well, but it's converting the power into 120 volts so that you can plug in appliances. You can plug in a fan or plug in, it's like having an electrical outlet in your home that it converts the energy into those 120 volt outlets.
Everything's mounted, everything's organized. So if you're doing this as a drop-in system, all you've got to do is run your solar wires down and connect those, connect your alternator wires to these studs, ground the system to the vehicle, and connect up the batteries with the cables that we'll supply. So you can see here on the back, we've got a DC fuse panel and we've got an AC breaker panel. We've also put a GFCI outlet back here just for convenience. It normally would be black, but we didn't have any black ones, so I threw this white one in here just temporarily for the video, but this would be black, so it all match. And then we've got a switch here, so if you want to wire some lights in the garage area, you can wire them right there to that switch. Now this also has a covered panel with doors that open, so you've got access to everything. And then you can just connect all of your circuits, your DC and AC circuits to these panels, and you're good to go. You'll be able to have your whole electrical system up and running in a weekend. So if you want to build your electrical and plumbing systems yourself, then we have some good resources for you between our van build sequence, template, and all.
Okay, so they offer a lot of resources for those who want to build these on their own. So, excellent. Thrivans. Think about Thrivans. They're an excellent YouTube channel, and he's a really good teacher of the systems that they use. And so, man, I don't know any of this stuff. I'm absolutely ignorant when it comes to electricity, when it comes to plumbing. I don't know anything about that stuff. And so I'm constantly sitting here trying to take notes and learn what I can. And so that's why I'm running this note sheet here to help me learn what's going on. And well, let's see. I guess that's about all I've got for today. Today is day 6 of my daily van update, and we'll be back tomorrow with another video of some kind. I don't know what we'll be talking about, but my goal is to do a video every day this entire year. So let's see how long I can go and do some sort of a daily update in terms of my van channel. So stick with me, stay along with me, and this year my main goal, of course, is to transition into a van. And whether I build a van on my own or get one that's already built out, that remains to be seen. So either way, you need to learn these systems. Even if you buy one that's already built out, it's helpful to know how these systems work so that you'll know whether you've got a good deal or not when you purchase a build out that's already done. Plus, there's going to be a lot of repairs that you're going to want to do yourself. If you're boondocking way out in the boonies somewhere and you don't have access to a mechanic or electrician and your lights go out, then you're going to have to know kind of what's going on. So that's why it's all a learning process, and I'm spending this year learning all I can about building out a van. So we will see you tomorrow.